The video, called The Star-Spangled Banner, as you've never heard it, has several historical errors in it. It's my intention to correct those errors in this video. The opening music in that video is from the movie Patton, which is a historical dramatization of General George S. Patton's service and campaigns during World War II. While that movie is fairly close to true history, I'm afraid the video I'm addressing here is much further from actual events than most viewers realize. There are millions of people who have seen the original video and heard this story. Many commenters have justified the factual errors in that story by saying that it's just a story and shouldn't be mistaken for factual history. But many others commenting in the same thread insist that it is true and factually accurate. A number of websites posting the video have also argued that it is in fact a true story. Well, it's not. In fact, the person narrating the video presents it as the reason that we are attached to our national anthem. This clearly implies that it is a truthful and accurate account. This is why I and others have tried to set the record straight. It is not unpatriotic or anti-American to have our true history told. The true story of this battle is told by several people here on YouTube. Even the Christian nationalist David Barton, who is notorious for botching American history, stays much closer to reality than this tall tale. And this tall tale is being told by another person who I would call a Christian nationalist. His intentions might be good and patriotic, but his facts are wrong. The battle itself was between the United States and Great Britain during the War of 1812. It was not against the colonies in the American Revolution. The fort guarding Baltimore and Baltimore Harbor is named Fort McHenry, not Fort Henry. There was a battle of Fort Henry in Tennessee during the American Civil War, but the fort guarding Baltimore Harbor is Fort McHenry. President Madison sent Francis Scott Key to obtain the release of Dr. William Beanes, who is a prominent surgeon. This was not a general prisoner exchange. The conversation in the video telling other prisoners that they were free or planning for their prisoner transfer could not have happened since Key simply was not there to obtain their release. Likewise, any conversations portrayed between Key and the British or the prisoners while the bombardment took place could not have happened since Key had returned to his own boat where he stayed during the bombardment itself. In general, the conversations portrayed in the video should not be taken as having actually taken place, and many of the statements within those conversations presented in this tale are completely false. For example, the claims that there were hundreds of British warships or the entire British war fleet present. History records a total of 50 British vessels, including 19 warships and several other boats, including rafts or barges carrying guns. The claim that Fort McHenry was not primarily a military fort is absurd. Fort McHenry was a true fort. Its function was to defend Baltimore Harbor and the city of Baltimore. That is the whole reason the British attacked it. The bombardment started at morning, not sunset. Key could not have relayed information on the battle to prisoners during the bombardment, since he wasn't on the British ship during the battle. His boat was miles behind the British fleet, and he could not have seen much of the battle from that distance, and he makes a reference to just seeing the red glare of rockets during the night. The quote attributed to George Washington actually originated more than a century later during the Spanish Civil War. It is not George Washington's quote. The name Star-Spangled Banner is the proper name given to the large American flag that Key saw the morning after the bombardment. That very flag is on display in the Smithsonian Museum today. Some commenters on various versions of this video have pointed to the damaged condition of that flag as evidence that the flag was indeed targeted during the bombardment. However, the flag that was flown over the fort during the bombardment was a much smaller flag called the storm flag because it was, in fact, during a storm during the course of a battle. Eyewitnesses, history records, stated that the larger one was raised the morning after the storm and bombardment had ended. This is the one that Key saw on the morning, revealing that the Americans, not the British, were still occupying the fort. Whatever damage that flag shows today could not and did not happen during the battle. Most of the damage actually occurred years later as people cut off sections of that flag as personal souvenirs, many winding up in personal collections and museums over the years. The Smithsonian website contains details of how the flag was restored many years later, about 100 years ago and then more recently in the 1990s. Francis Scott Key did not go immediately into Fort McHenry when the battle was over, but went from his place on that boat into the city of Baltimore. The climax of this tale in this video about the flag is a total fabrication. There were no people holding up the flagpole and no record of the pole falling. The large flag, originally called the garrison flag, was originally 42 by 30 feet and was held by a huge flagpole. It would be impossible for dead or dying men to hold that flagpole up. It would have weighed hundreds of pounds, wet in the storm. During the battle, a total of 4 Americans were killed, including 1 woman. Several people have attributed the original speech to a David C. Gibbs, Jr. He has preached several sermons recorded here on YouTube. He is a lawyer and a founder of the Christian Law Association. Comparing the voice on his sermons and the narrator in this video, I do believe it is his narration. I cannot say, however, that he originated the story as he told it, or if he obtained that story from someone else. No matter how many people in the comment section have complained that this is a true story and we should leave it at that, none of them have come forth with a single reference anywhere, nor can I find any reference anywhere indicating where this story comes from.